Hello. For those of you who can see me and hear me, welcome to Credit Your Way to a Faster Masters, which is our information session for the coming term, come session. There's only half a dozen people in the audience at the moment, so feel free to send us a note in the chat, tell us who you are, what you're interested in talking about. I was going to present a little poll while we're waiting for a few more people to come in to say, look, maybe you can just put an answer in there as, are you interested in making your master's degree go a little bit faster? There are no right answers because I assume that quite a lot of our students aren't interested in it, and you'll see why maybe a little bit further on. But we'll give everybody just 1 or 2 minutes before we launch into the information. When you're doing in the when you're in the chat, remember to do it to everyone. Hi, Greg. Hi, Wayne. Thanks for coming along. Let us know where you're from too, whether you're, as I am in Melbourne, and as also is Chantel, who you can see Chantel's picture, but not Chantel. But
Good
we'll do
evening,
a
all.
bit more of an introduction. Hi. Camden. Camden's Sydney-ish, isn't it? Outer suburbs of Sydney, I think. Southwest. There we go. Near the new airport, maybe. Hi, Sandy. Welcome along. This is going to be a relatively small group. We had about 50 people sign up for it, but as always, that means that probably somewhere between 5 and 20 will actually show up on the evening. It's always hard to get people after work, and we understand that. So I think we'll probably kick off and start sort of semi-formally. So as you can see on the screen, my name's Shane Murphy. I'm the sales and marketing person here at IT Masters, and with me is Chantel Hale, our CEO, and somebody who's been with the business since its inception. Is that right, Chantel?
Almost, a few years after that, but almost.
Yeah. Yes, it's been a while. I've been here since 2022, so not 2002. So a little bit about us. We were established over 20 years ago. We've just been doing online postgraduate IT with one partner, Charles Sturt University, since then. And for 19 or so out of those 22 years, we've been the biggest provider as classified by the higher education stats. That doesn't have a huge amount of meaning, but it does mean that it's something that we've been doing ever since we started, and it is our focus. And if you look at the graph, it's not so much the clear numbers, but what it does show you is that we've been pretty consistent in what we do. And everybody else goes, they go up a bit and then they go down a bit and they go up a bit, or they're just not really that interested. I could give you the names of half these universities, but that would be a bit rude. We had one university here that had a really big year in the middle of COVID, but I think because they just said everybody was online, which, that's probably what happened. The thing that's unique about Charles Sturt and us is our partnership. Lots of universities have partners that do things for them. Most of those are in the international education space. We're one of the few that's in the domestic education space. There's a couple of others around. But also what's unique is that we provide a lot of intellectual property, not just some teaching and some marketing. So a lot of what we teach, in fact, 50% of it is IT masters designed and worked on. And we have our own set of mentors, as we call them, who do the lectures for us. And that gives it a whole different flavor to a lot of other degrees because you get 50% of it is focused on, traditional IT academics. The other 50% is focused on what's actually going on in the industry today. And so that does put us, a little bit to one side, and it's done well over the years. We're always trying to tweak it as well. The other thing that is different, I think, about us is a lot of universities talk about how student focused they are. I think we do try and live that to a different extent. So, for example, we manage our own admissions. We manage all the admissions for all the courses that we do. And we also suggest to people, when you've got questions, come and talk to us first. It might be a problem with something that's going on at the Charles Sturt end because they provide all the infrastructure. But if you talk to us, we'll help guide you through that maze because sometimes that can be a bit complex to deal with. And often we'll have seen that problem before and be able to provide some tips. It's that sort of stuff that we do that's just a little bit different to maybe what other universities do. I don't know if you remember when you were at school, there all the teachers said, when you get to university, nobody's going to help you. You're going to find everything out yourself and do it all your own. Well, that's not quite true here. We try and stand in the way between you and the bureaucracy and try and ease that a little bit. It's not about hand holding, it's just trying to like remove obstacles. I think anybody that's studying a postgraduate degree after hours has a busy life already. Most of you, if we look at what our average student profile looks at, most of you are in your mid to late 30s or older, and you're already committed up to the wazoo with things that you have to do in your life: children, jobs, family, work, all sorts of stuff. And what we're trying to do is to do less, trying to minimize the pain you need to go through. So why would you study for your master's in IT? Yep.
Yeah, I thought I would talk a little bit about this
Yes.
one, why, what appeals about just generally studying for a master's. And one of the key things there is cost of living is hurting absolutely everyone. And master's graduates absolutely do earn on average 25% more than undergrads. Those are statistics we know, but also one of the things about it is it does look good on your resume, and you can even put it there while you start studying. I'm in the middle of my master's, estimated completion 2027, which sounds very far away, but it's really not that far away. And it can be just an extra little grab on your resume to get the attention of the people who are looking through those resumes to see who they're going to interview. And you'll find that with bigger firms, especially, they do pay more for master's grads, and some of them will even have we're not hiring anyone who doesn't have a master's for this role or above. And we aim to make sure that our masters do equip you for leadership roles. So the whole point of studying a master's and not an undergrad is that we're trying to give you those greater skills. And a lot of that is, critical thinking and how to adapt your knowledge to a given situation. And we really do think that there's some really important skills that you'll find here while you're studying with us, particularly those project management and management skills. So while you'll be studying IT subjects, a lot of the assessments you'll do will ask you to, present a solution that you've come up with to an executive board. And the benefit of that is you will have to do things like that in everyday life. And if you can do the most amazing things in IT, that's great. But a lot of the time that has a ceiling when it comes to jobs. Whereas if you have those executive skills, that can really help propel your career. And we definitely do have those deeper knowledge areas in cloud and cyber and networks. And all of our mentors that teach the IT Masters subjects are industry experts who are working in the industry themselves. And we'll talk a little bit more on them soon. But it does allow you to not just get that deeper knowledge, but then that hands-on practical knowledge, so that you're not just looking at things from a purely theoretical point of view. And really, it is good to extend and challenge yourself and grow. This is one of those things where sometimes if you get comfortable at work, you realize that you haven't done a lot of critical thinking about these areas in a while, and it's good to come up with new topics that you're interested in and explore those, and come up with interesting conversations in our webinars so that you're exploring your interest in these areas.
Oh,
I'll pass. And so we've got, no, I think good to
there we
go
go.
next. Yeah.
Yes. So this is about our students. And honestly, we bang on a bit about our students because if you look at our cohort compared to people doing similar or the same courses at the rest of, say, Charles Sturt and other universities, in general, our students tend to finish their degrees more often. They tend to score a little bit higher in the same classes that other students do, and they tend to actually just make it all work. One of the things about our students, which we're very excited about, I say last year because they only got awarded last year, but our cybersecurity master's student, Lauren Veenstra, won the Charles Sturt Medal for Overall Achievement. And that's not just about academics, because Lauren's academics were excellent. But what it was also about is that Lauren was there as a mentor to other students, became part of the university senate, and got themselves involved in the university in a more general sense, as if really there was not much difference between what Lauren was able to do as an online external student compared to somebody who was at the university grounds and talking to people every day. And that's why the medal got given to Lauren. But that's part of the reason why we look after our students. We think that you're a really good group. We help plan your study load and your course mapping, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Before I've recently become a little bit more intimately involved with some of the course mapping, and honestly, it is as much art as science, because there are a lot of variables to work with when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do and when and what's the fastest way through it. And also, we stand there and we make ourselves available when something goes wrong. If somebody's not happy with the way our courses go, our subjects going, for example, or there's some other issue going on at the university, we try and absolutely be part of that process of solving those problems with you. And so that's why we think we're very student focused, and we think our students are great, basically. Which leads us to
Yeah,
our
and
next people, our
I think
mentors.
I think it's a key thing that Shane has said, but it bears repeating. All of our students are working full time. They have family, they have jobs. We understand that university is not ever going to be your top priority, or usually even in your top five. And that's okay. We still think you can get a quality degree while having all of those things. And one of the things that I do think really does help to allow that point of view is we've got these excellent mentors, all of whom are working within the industry. So they teach our IT masters subjects, and the CSU subjects have a more academic bent and are taught by CSU lecturers. But the IT masters mentors, top flight industry practitioners, they're CISOs, they're working within the industry. So not only can they tell you how to do something, but they can tell you how this is done in actual real world practice. So that when you finish your qualification, if you don't currently have much experience in the industry, you actually get that knowledge better than you would if you were just listening to somebody who's only ever worked in a university. Um, so they work at major companies Australia-wide. They're senior technical staff in well-known industry vendors or consultants who have worked for just about everyone in their careers. And they are able to combine that theoretical knowledge with the practical, actual application. So we've got George Thomas, he's a Dr. George Thomas, who specializes in our cyber warfare areas, but is also very good on the networking. We've got Jeremy Costa there up on the right. He is a CISO, I believe, and he's a cybersecurity expert. We've got Brenton Birchmore in the middle there. He's our communications and management expert, and he's very, very good. And a lot of the people who take his communications subject are very clear. He's incredibly excellent, and they didn't want to take the communication subject, but it was incredibly useful for them in their workplaces at getting their ideas across the line and making them heard.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't necessarily advertise where some of these people work, but you would be surprised. Some of our cybersecurity people in particular work for top 50, even top 10, top 20 companies in Australia, and they're either CISOs or quite senior or architects for cyber architecture and the like. So they do come to us with a lot of experience. Quite a few of them have actually done our courses along the way as well. So George, for example, is a doctor from Charles Sturt and did our master's programs prior to doing that. So he's been with us for quite a long while.
It turns out that's a really good way to get a mentor who knows the pain that students go through.
Yes.
So we've got several areas, obviously, that we have qualifications in. And we've heard from a lot of people that they're here for that Master of Cybersecurity or courses in the cybersecurity area, which is by far and away our biggest course. And it's the one that we have, the most excitement about. But a lot of the subjects that are available in that are available in other qualifications, and we have different other areas of specialty. So we've got the Master of Cloud Computing and Virtualization over there on the left, and the Master of Networking and Systems Administration. They're both very similar, but they have their different focuses. We've got the MBA in computing with specializations. And what's good about that is you get that MBA element from the Charles Sturt University subjects, which is really great. And we have some of the IT Masters subjects are in that as well. And MBA is a recognizable brand, and it can be very helpful if you want to climb up into those upper levels of management. But the specializations allow you to get, for instance, an MBA in computing cybersecurity, so that you have a qualification that does a lot of those things. So you can study the MBA while also studying cybersecurity subjects. And we've got the Master of Project Management there. And both of those courses on the right, Master of Cybersecurity and the Master of Project Management, do have grad dips as well as grad certs, and all the other qualifications have grad certs. And then up the top in the middle, you'll see that graduate certificate in computing career transition. This one doesn't have a master's attached to it because it really just does have all of our subjects involved in it. So if you're not quite sure what you want to study, but you have some of the subjects look pretty good to you, you want to start out and try. You've got the graduate certificate in computing. It's a really good way to try out some subjects. We do recommend that you speak to our course advisors first before you do that one, because one of the good things about it is if you do happen to study the right subjects in it, you can then move into one of the masters listed here with full credit. And we'll talk a little bit more about credit soon, but it is a way that you can try some things out without tying yourself directly to one course, without also then wasting that time in study so that you can get your master's faster.
Absolutely. We've got quite a few people that have done one or more graduate certificates, and then they can, when it comes closer to the master's time, make a choice between doing, say, the MBA or the Master of Cybersecurity. That in particular is as an option that comes up for people, because if you've done 4, say, cybersecurity subjects in your grad cert of cybersecurity, you might then decide to go on to the MBA, in which case they all become your specialization, and you do all the MBA, the management subjects in the MBA part of the program as you go on. But the grad cert in computing also has a slightly easier entry level point. So if you're coming into the grad cert of cybersecurity, you'd be expected to have some background in cybersecurity in your resume. If you don't, then you can come in via the graduate cert in computing, and that gives you a way in so you can actually get the subjects up on board and then go straight on to the Master of Cybersecurity if that's where you want to go. While we're talking about grad dips, we have a relatively new graduate diploma in cybersecurity. It's just starting. This is the first, well, actually, it's just on the second session, which it'll be offered. We released it very late last year. It has a new internship option. Now, that's only going to be of interest to people who aren't already working in cybersecurity, but we get quite a few people that come in from other areas into cybersecurity. And the idea about that is there are a certain amount of places available in companies that will give you very cybersecurity focused internship for 12 weeks for about a couple of days a week with personalized coaching from Brenton, actually, who is excellent at doing the coaching. It's much more than you would expect with an internship. And plus, we also filter through the people who are going to be your hosts, because what we want you to do is have a good experience. Obviously, this is not the same as having worked in cybersecurity for a long while and then being able to get a job with experience, but it's getting you along that path, because we recognize that many of the bigger and more organized cybersecurity firms are very loath to employ somebody without any experience whatsoever at the moment. And so we want to try and find ways of reaching beyond that. So we want to try and make the internship experience as good as possible. So it gives you a little bit of an idea around that. It's only a 1-year part-time course. It's 8 subjects. If you've done a graduate certificate first, then obviously that would credit into it, whether it's a grad cert in computing or a grad cert in cybersecurity, and it's all online, as are all our subjects. I don't think we've spoken enough about that before, but all of our courses are 100% online. You never have to come in. There's no weekends away. There are no exams set in particular places. It's all done online and very successfully so. We'll talk more about some of these things about, the modes and the fee help and things as we go on as well. So we talked a little bit then about pathways and things. And what IT Masters does, and again, this is one of the little things I think that makes this a little bit different. to everybody else, is we've been slowly developing a range of options for people to study with us in different ways and at different levels throughout the course of their learning journey, if you like. So for some people, they just want to take our free short courses, and we'll talk a little bit more about them ahead. But we've got about 50 or 60 free short courses. They go for about 4 weeks when you do them live in the same environment that we would do our normal master's courses, or a similar environment. We teach them the same way. Many of the same people teach them, and they're pitched at the same level. So it's a really good thing to do to get yourself ready for postgraduate study if you haven't studied for many years. A lot of our students do not need to study, do not have any experience whatsoever. They haven't studied since maybe high school. And so they can be, people can be a little bit apprehensive about going into university, because historically a master's degree was something that not many people did and was quite hard to get into. This gives you some good feel for what we're like, for the quality of our courses, and for how to actually study online. They are simpler and they are a lot faster. Obviously, they're only 4 weeks worth rather than 12, but it gives you some really good insights into what's there. Plus, the content in them is actually really good. We've had over 600,000 people enroll in those free short courses. A lot of them are international students who will never actually take our master's degrees. But, it's provided a lot of good information for people out there. And there's some other benefits as well. So the idea is that you might do those when you first start off. You may already have some industry certifications, or you may not. We can actually provide a couple. We've got quite a few of the CompTIA ones available, and also certified ethical hacker has recently come into our portfolio, and we are literally on the verge of getting a maybe something like CISP signed off as well. So there'll be more developments in that area over the next couple of months. And the idea is that we have quite a lot of industry certifications that we make available to our potential students, because what we then do is we credit you with some subjects if you do the right ones. We'll talk more about that today. This seminar really should have been called Credit, because that's what it's really about. Then you might do your graduate certificate in your area, or in computing transition. You would then maybe go on to a graduate diploma or a master's. There are all steps along the way. Along that path, you would cash in your certifications for some credit and or get ACS certified. We'll talk about that as well. And then maybe at the end, you might, rather than doing a Master of Cyber, you might do the MBA program with a tech specialization, because the MBA might carry slightly more cachet than doing a Master of Cybersecurity. It depends where you're going down, a purely technical path or a more general management path in your organization. And, a lot of our students might start off on the technical path, and they get to a certain point and they come to us and say, actually, I need to go into the MBA now. What can we do? How do we make it work? So it's just to give you an idea, as we've worked quite a lot towards providing an ecosystem in which you can do all sorts of different study, but can all work to the same end in the long run, which is, upskilling and getting ahead in your career. So tell us about getting in, Chantel.
Well, getting in is a lot easier than you would think if you remember the old school way of doing masters, which was you had to get a bachelor's, you had to get a certain qualification, certain score in your bachelor's, or do your honors, and then you could do your masters. Obviously, right now, we have entry points for gaining eligibility into our courses without a bachelor's, which is really great, especially for those of you who just entered the IT world, started working, and don't really want to go back to uni and discover, what's a WAN, what's a LAN. We've got, availability for you to enter these courses without those qualifications. And then you can get your knowledge sort of confirmed with a master's qualification that is AQF certified. So you can use work experience in IT or in another field if you want a career transition. So obviously, if you've got no experience in IT, that is fine. We have ways to get you in. It starts with the grad cert in career transition in computing career transition, and then you move from there into the masters. And we do ask you it's best if you speak to our admin officers or admissions officers in order to discuss what subjects to study, because as Wayne said earlier, with credits, you need to be really careful about which ones you use. And we would prefer you call us every day for a month before you agree to what subjects you're going to study than to study the wrong subjects and to end up being like, oh, I have to study an extra subject and I really want to get my master's now. So it is really important that you pay attention to what subjects you study and get credit for so that you can make the most out of your time and money to study with us. If you're unsure, we have our Am I Eligible form where you can put in your experience and any qualifications you have, and our eligibility officer will give you a call and talk you through the process, or she can email you through if you aren't available for a call. And then your admissions are processed by our local ITM team, which what that means is the person who processes your application knows about our courses specifically and knows the ins and outs of our courses. And anytime you call IT Masters, you're speaking to people who are experts in these suite of courses, rather than calling a university and speaking to somebody who is an expert in admissions, but not necessarily in IT qualifications or experience you need to get into an IT course. Wayne mentioned Kat. She's great, one of our amazing admissions officers. And everyone out of the IT Masters team, if you call up, will be able to help you with those areas. And we do think it's really important that if you have any questions, we would prefer you call up and ask or send an email and ask, and we will usually have the answer for you. Rather than wondering and going ahead without knowing what to do. So if you call up, we'll map your course out for you. We can even answer questions if you're like, oh, I don't really like exams, which subjects don't have them? What are the assessments like? What am I meant to do here? I liked this mentor. What other subjects do they teach? We can answer all those questions and we are more than happy to do so. And I think there was a question there about work experience, and we'll talk about that in a slide later. I just want to make sure that we're not missing any relevant questions here. But yes, we have experts in our courses ready to talk to you about them. If you just want to fill out the eligibility form, that's the easiest way to get somebody giving you specific advice just for you.
Yes, the eligibility form is a really good pathway in. Greg, if you haven't actually started studying yet or done anything like that, it might be a good way to get Anna, our eligibility person, to give you a bit of a call or an email. She does a lot of it via email as well, to help you guide that through. But absolutely, the cyber experience is about getting entry more than actually contributing to the subjects themselves. So if you've got some experience in cybersecurity, that's your way of getting entry into the course. And depending on what you've got and how it all works, you can get entry into either the master's or the graduate certificate. In fact, I think this next slide shows a little bit exactly that.
And
good timing.
There is a way to get credit for relevant work experience, but we will get to that.
Yes. Absolutely, that's a little bit different. But also, what you're saying was absolutely the subjects in the cybersecurity graduate certificate bleed straight through into the masters, as do subjects from the others. Where it gets complex is when, as Wayne is saying, he's done 2 graduate certificates now. One of them is directly linked to the cybersecurity masters that he wants to do. The other one is not directly linked, so it counts in a different way, but they all still count. It's just when you've got a lot of credits up your sleeve, you have to manage that process a little bit to make sure that you don't have things that give you double credit for the same thing, for example, and that you don't overuse them. But we'll talk more about credit in a sec. Really, this is about just saying before, this is how you get in. If you've got an undergrad or a postgrad qualification, you can go into the grad cert or the masters. If you've got relevant work experience and you don't have any previous university qualifications, then you get into the graduate certificate pathway. It is true to say virtually the majority, in fact, probably the large majority of our students come through the relevant work experience pathway. That is because IT is famous for having people that are really good at IT, probably grew up doing it as younger people, went straight into the workforce, never felt they needed to study, probably got some industry certs along the way. And now they've got to a point where maybe they need it because they're in a larger organization and there is pressure to have a postgraduate or an undergraduate qualification. And when you're 35, you don't want to be going back to university with 18-year-olds necessarily. When you can actually go and sit with your peers in postgraduate learning, and it is a different environment. One of the things that I say about the way we deal with our students is, for those of you who've been in business for a while, you would think it's what a business to consumer type process, in that we're a business and you're consumers. The reality is it's much more like dealing with another business. It's much more like a B2B process because we're dealing with you. You know what you want. You've been doing it for years. Usually you've got a very clear understanding of the sort of things you want to end up with. What you don't necessarily know is how to get from A to B. And that's our role, is to help you navigate through that journey along that path. A lot of what we also do is try and help you find ways to save time in your study journey. It sounds a little bit counterproductive because we actually make less money out of that. But the reality is we find students have a much better experience if you don't have to learn the same things twice, and if you can go through and get your master's in a somewhat faster way than you might expect if you're just coming in off the street straight into a course. And so it's really part of our philosophy is to try and help our students get through things. And exactly, happy students refer others, which is what we really, that's really good for us in the long run. So, as I said before, credit, 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 credit. Credit is a bit esoteric, but it's really important. In short, there's a few simple rules around credits, but
Yeah.
it becomes quite complicated. Sorry, Chantel.
Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't have spoke. I've got to stop and cough anyway. I'll let you speak.
Okay, I'll just have a sip of my wine. Okay, so look, the general rule is up to 50% of your course you can get in credits from different sources. IT Masters and Charles Sturt have agreed a range of credit abilities, you might call them, that is, I think, unprecedented in the industry. Most universities give you, of course, credit for prior university studies and learning, because if you've done something that's the same subject virtually at another institution, there is no reason why they shouldn't give you a credit for that. That means you don't pay for the subject and you get it credited and you're faster. What we offer on top of that are three areas that most other universities, in fact, I think no other university gives all of these. The first one is industry certifications, which we'll talk about a little bit more. Things like ISC2, EC Council, CompTIA, Prince2, AWS, Microsoft. We have certified hundreds of industry certifications, as in certified and approved ourselves. Each one of them has been mapped to relevant subjects, and we see where we can actually find a credit for you with those. So, and the university signs off on all of those. So it is very much a process because they don't really want to give away learning if they can avoid it. The other one is ACS. We'll talk about that a little bit more. The Australian Computer Society, they have their own certification program, and we're very happy to give some generic credits for people who are certified under those. And that is one of the best investments in your career you can make. And the third one, or fourth one, I should say, is for our free short courses. I'll talk a little bit more about those over the next couple of slides because credit is really important, every one of those. ACS. So, as I said before, the ACS cost and the return on investment is huge. If you've been working in the industry for a number of years, you are almost certain to get at least certified as a certified technician. And if you've been working for quite a few years, almost certainly as a certified professional. For example, I spoke to the people about doing it some years ago. I don't have a technical background, but I've been working in IT-related fields for 25 years in telco and all sorts of stuff. And they told me that I was somewhere between a CT and a CP without even looking at my resume. So I feel that there are there's not a lot of people that get turned away from being certified if you have relevant experience. The process is really easy. The cost, I'll explain the process in a second. The cost is about $800. That is $400 roughly for ACS membership and $400 roughly for getting the certification. As a student of us, everybody can actually apply for free membership of the ACS as a student member. But in order to get certified, you have to be beyond a student member. You have to pay for the full membership. Now, if you get a CT, it's worth $4,000 because your $800 gets you $4,000, i.e., one subject credit. If you're certified professional, you get two subject credits, which is worth over $8,000 these days. And the process is pretty simple. You send your membership in, your resume in once you've actually become a member and signed up for the process. They look at your resume and then you sit and do an interview, and it's done according to an English-based process called SFIA or SOFIA, where they just ask you a series of questions about your actual experience, what happened in this situation, were you a project leader in this, what did you do there, what was your contribution, how did it work. It's not something you need to be nervous about. It's not like a job interview. It's a discussion more. And then after that, they score all of that, and then they will let you know whether you get the certification, which one of it is. I think I've got some stats further on about how many people do it. Personally, I'm amazed that so few people go and get the ACS certification, because that investment is honestly the best $800 you can spend if you don't want to do all the subjects. We do get people that do want to do all our subjects, but if you don't want to do all the subjects, you're going to get a really good return on your investment for that. And it sounds a bit too good to be true, but we worked hard to get this set up some years ago, and now we sort of live by it, if you like.
Yeah, and not only are you saving money, but you're also saving time. It takes time to study subjects, especially if you want to study them well. And this gives you recognition for your experience in your workplace learning. And there isn't a lot of credit available for workplace experience available at master's level. That's not usually a thing.
That's a good question, Jordan. I can't remember if you have to keep reapplying to become a member, but I think the certification stays in place for quite a while, because it's not like you're undoing it. It's not like CISP where you have to redo it every couple of years, I think, and keep up with it. There are certain requirements.
Has Shane frozen for anyone else? Okay, great. Well, at least there's two of us, and I can take over a little bit. And I can send him a message while I yammer on. But Wayne says he thinks it's ongoing, and I think that that's likely probably the case. At least it's ongoing for a decent amount of time, and so it is pretty handy. But also it's a good thing to have, maybe you don't love ACS as a company, but it's good to have a look at them and see what they have to offer. As a member, they do have certain benefits as a member that could be useful. There goes Shane. I'm going to share the slides so that I can actually show you something and we can go from there. Just give me 2 seconds, because for some reason my computer always wants me to present on my big screen. Shane's back.
Ah, my apologies.
Um,
My internet just decided to die on me.
Well, that's all right. I was just about to share my screen. Um, well, and as Wayne said, you only need it once to get it towards the masters. And if you get that CP option, that is two subjects. That's not anything to sneeze at. Did you
Absolutely.
know?
So,
Um,
do we
should
want
I
to go
share
on
my
to?
screen? Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sharing. Right. Let me reshare. Sorry, it wasn't coming up on the thing. There we go. Don't you love it when things go well? Always technical stuff. And I've discovered that it's always IT people have the worst internet, despite the fact that I have a 500 megabit stream coming into this house.
So they say.
Okay. Yeah, so
Uh,
that's it. Uh,
Industry certs, though,
yes,
this is the area where most of our credits go to, because so many IT people who haven't collected a bachelor's over the years and don't have university qualifications have collected industry certifications like, you know, playing cards or something. I don't know, Pokemon cards, is that a thing? Um, a lot of them have, you have to have them renewed every now and again. So if something has expired, you do need to get the renewal to have it. But once you get your industry certification applied as credit, that is applied as credit in your course in perpetuity. So, for instance, say you have a CISP that is about to expire, you can join our masters, get that credit, and then once the CISP expires, the credit doesn't. So you've still got that there. And we've got so many different areas. We have a whole site on a page on our website dedicated to the credit finder. It's very complicated. There's a lot there. And if there's anything there that's not, anything that you've got that's not covered there, email us and we can talk about it and whether there's a reason it's not covered or we just haven't got around to it, in which case, yeah, we can look into it and see if it works for credit. Because we have so many subjects available to our students available for credit. As Shane says, you can only get a max of 50% of your course credit, but still that leaves a lot of subjects that you can get.
It's also important, if you haven't done the industry certs already, to be aware of which ones will give you credit for what as you're doing them. So I was speaking to somebody the other day who has CISP, CompTIA Security Plus, and I think another one, I've forgotten what it was, maybe JIAC or something, but they all gave credit for one of the same subjects. And one of them, CISP, gave credit for multiple subjects. So there was a third subject he could get credit for, but he wasn't getting the full value out of it because essentially he had overlapping credits. And we can't do anything much about that in the long run. That we can't say, well, CISP's going to give you a credit in some cloud subject that it doesn't relate to. And as Wayne said, a lot of the courses do have relationships back to the certifications as well. For example, IT 516 hacking countermeasures is closely related to certified ethical hacker, for example. And so it does work in both directions for us a little bit, in that if you do the subject and you need the cert later on, you can actually go and get the cert later on. That's one of the reasons why we moved into providing the certifications ourselves, because it just seemed like we're already crediting them. Why wouldn't we have a slightly closer relationship to that process? And we're doing new ones all the time. There's a new CompTIA Security, AI Security Plus that's coming out in the next, I think it's just been launched formally. Maybe it hasn't gone out to public yet. Once that's out there, we'll match that against some new subjects we have coming up as well, and some of our old ones, to see if we can get that to give you some credit as well. But please look at the website, apply for credit. There's a little thing up the top of the page for credit, and you can actually search by vendors. You can search by credit names. You can just look through the whole list. And there's probably about another 200 plus that we've looked at that we couldn't approve because they don't quite meet the standards. They don't map accordingly, etc. So very often we've been asked about some odd ones, and then I go and ask our cert people, and they say, "Oh yeah, we did that one. It doesn't map. Sorry." Yeah, but most of them we do, and it gives you a very good idea. So the other thing to think about is our free short courses. We spoke about that a little bit before. As we said, over 620,000 enrollments, over 50 courses currently available. We're just launching, well, I think it was going to go out tonight, maybe tomorrow, a new free short course, which will be hacking countermeasures, which is why that's top of my mind, because it marries into our actual postgraduate subject of hacking countermeasures. And that one will launch, that will run over the next 4 weeks, starting from March the 5th. And that gives you also, if you do 3 of those and pass them, which is not a hard ask, you basically have to sit a small quiz at the end of each week, and then a final 40 choice, multiple choice exam at the end. 3 of those passed gives you 1 subject credit. And we figured,
and they are taught by our mentors. And I think it's a really good way to, if you're unsure about can I study, go in, try out our free short courses. They're usually based on 4 weeks worth of material. You get to see how well you do. How well do you understand it? If you understand these well, you're probably going to do well at the masters. They don't have rigorous academic assessments in the free short courses, But if you can understand what they're talking about, you're probably going to be fine.
Yeah, I thought I'd just put this up next because this is what freaks me out a little bit. We've been doing these webinars and we talk about credit a lot in the webinars, and yet the number of people that take up the opportunity is comparatively low for the hundreds of people that enroll in our subjects every year. We've got, I think, is it 700 current students on our books. And out of that, this is for 2024, 2025. We had only about 16 students in 2024 and 20 students in 2025 got industry credits. So they're the people that are in this group here. And these are all the ones that we actually got. So ACS members, there's whatever that is, 9 of those. That's Cisco, not Cisco, that's yeah, it is Cisco, CyberOps. What we used to be their old security certification. We did a free short course in that, by the way. That's still available on the system. And with the short course, I should say, they do stay on there for 2, 3, 4, 5 years or more until they get out of date, and then we replace them, and we do new ones about 4 or 5 a year. So they are still there. You can do them at any time. So you could do the CyberOps one, then go and sit the CyberOps exam. Obviously, a 4-week short course is not going to give you the whole curriculum for something like, CISP or CyberOps or whatever. It's going to give you an introduction to it and some more information about it. Microsoft Certified Engineer, Security Engineer for Private Cloud, Prince 2, and CompTIA Security Plus. They were our big ones. It gives you some idea where they're accredited against as well. But that is not a lot of people doing those when we would consider that probably a lot more people have some aspect of them. There are reasons sometimes why people don't do them. One of the reasons is that a lot of the subject credits are against IT master's subjects, and we found that our subjects are generally relatively popular, and so maybe people want to do those subjects. But it is there. And free short courses, for example, we only did 89 free short course credits over the past 2 years. That surprised me. I would have thought virtually everybody would do the free short course credit and have it up their sleeve, because what happens is you might get 8 or 9 subjects into a master's, be running out of puff. Maybe you've had another baby in your family, maybe you've got a new job, you have to have a year off, somebody's sick, all sorts of things go on in people's lives. And you've already taken maybe a year off along the way. You don't want to take another year off. That one credit can be the difference between you having the wherewithal to finish your master's and not finish it. So we've been speaking to a number of people that, like Wayne, are only a few subjects away from doing their masters, and we've been trying to advise them how to help them get through. And often it's the free short course credit that can make all the difference with what they want to do. So please, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to talk to us about it. Tell us the sort of things you want to do, and we'll help you structure it as best we can. I think, maybe Wayne, you've had a full course map at some point. It sounds like you probably have, and that's the sort of thing that we try and do for people. If you don't actually get the spreadsheet, we take you through it anyway and show you what you need to do, which subjects when, and how it works. So I think it was Jordan asked about cost before, was it?
He definitely did, I believe. And there are a few ways to pay, to explain. It was Greg.
Greg.
Sorry, Jordan, for putting those words in your mouth. But when studying at a university level, you do pay for your subjects that you study at the time. So, for instance, if you join in and you study one subject, you pay for that one subject. There are a few ways that you pay for those. You can pay all those subject fees up front. So, okay, I've started studying. It cost, I can't remember the exact cost for 2026 because it has changed. Cost that much for a subject. I'm going to just pay that amount. It's fine. It's done. It's paid. The other way to do it is fee help loans for all tuition fees. So you fill out a form, and then fee help loans happen. They go through the tax system, and then at tax time, if you're over the threshold, which most people working these days are, like working full time are, but some people are working part time, or they're just working in a job that currently doesn't meet that threshold. But if you do meet that threshold, you will then pay back a portion of that at tax time, or you can set it up so that your wages, it is automatically taken out of your wages. Um, you can split the difference. You can pay some upfront and use a fee help loan for the rest. People are asking about why we don't have CSP available. If you didn't join the course that you're currently in last year, unfortunately, we don't have CSP available. We don't get access to those decisions. It's the university gets a pool of Commonwealth supported places, and they've decided that they need to focus those in other areas rather than postgraduate IT. Obviously, I'm very disappointed, but we understand why they've made that decision. It's unfortunate. We had access to CSP for a few years, and it was really good for students, but not currently anymore, unfortunately. But we do at least have these fee help loans available, and I do think they can really help. Also, speak to your workplace because often they have a budget for training and they will be interested in that. And that 10% alumni discount is really important when you're considering studying because, say, for instance, you have a bachelor and you can get into the master's straight away if you want to. I do think one of the things to consider is if you start with a grad cert, you get that 10% alumni discount, and that's pretty good. That's definitely not going to hurt. Um, Somebody has asked, is there opportunity for that to change in the future for CSP spots to come back? There's no guarantees. We've seen no indication that that's going to happen, unfortunately.
I think it's fair to say that there is a lot of discomfort in the whole university sector about the whole what they call jobs ready graduate program under which CSP was offered. The original CSP grants were applied to specified courses. So when we got them before, in the first place, they were actually only for those 3 or 4 courses, and the universities were told which ones they had to provide them to. And then that changed over the years, and the universities just got a pool and they could assign them when they want. And by and large, nearly all the universities have moved them from postgraduate into undergraduate courses because they want to get more people in at the bottom end, and undergraduate numbers have been falling. We're still, I think, for undergrads below where they were in 2014, 2012, around that sort of era. And so I think there was, a bit of pressure on the universities to try and spend those things elsewhere. But there is also pressure on the government, and there's a new body that's going to manage universities as a whole to try and come up with a different way of organizing those fees. Because what essentially happened with CSP was that courses like IT and medicine and things like that got reduced fees, and courses like law and business and arts got increased fees. And so there's a lot of pressure from the arts community and other people to have that rebalanced out again, but nobody knows where that's going to go. The government has not said anything. And in the meantime, the university is doing what they can. We certainly, it's fair to say that Chantel and I have lobbied long and hard at Charles Sturt to try and do different things to get some CSP assigned. And yeah, unfortunately, our opportunity to do that ran out at the end of last year. But yes, with the skills gap in cyber, you would think they'd be doing it, but we just unfortunately unable to. So yes, I would. That the 10% alumni discount is another really good reason to start off by doing a grad cert first. Even if you want, you're definitely focused on getting your masters. Getting the grad cert first along the way means that by the time you do the last 8 subjects, you're getting that 10% discount. It also changes the balance a little bit. When Wayne, for example, was doing his first few subjects and he was getting CSP on the grad certs, we would say to him, don't get your credits now, get your credits in your masters because you're paying full fees for those, whereas these you're paying a smaller fee up front. We would say that's probably flipped around now, and in the grad certs, you may want to, in fact, get
your credits faster.
credits faster because you get your 10%. But I would also still keep some of them up your sleeve because that last 4 subjects or so is where the hard slog is. My partner did a doctorate some years ago, and but that last year was always hard. In the masters, it's a little bit easier, but it's still there. That's something that goes along.
And just a final note there on credit. That credit can be applied at any point during your studies. I do think is important. It means that you can talk with our course advisors about when best to apply it. and to get the best bang for your buck and the best value for your time, because your time is precious as well. It's also worth noting we obviously don't charge for credit assessments or anything, even before you're a student. Send us through the information and we will spend the time doing it, and we will look very hard for whatever credit we can apply. But if you don't get credit for those things, there's no penalty there. There's no issues. So just it's better to send it through and see if it gets credit than not.
Absolutely. Always ask. So we're pretty much at the end, and we'll ask if you've got any more questions. There's only a small group, so feel free to just go hard. I just thought I'd leave this up on the screen. These are some former students of ours who did various courses: Master of Project Management, also Cybersecurity and Cloud. And these are things that they've actually said. I did the interview with Patrick. He really enjoyed doing project management. I think his only criticism was that it was very IT focused and he happened to work in the railway industry, but he really enjoyed it. In fact, I think he was one of the people that said that MGI 521, our professional communication subject that Chantel referred to earlier, he said, I didn't want to do this. It was a core subject. I hated the idea of doing it. Once I'd started doing it, I asked why my whole company wasn't doing it. And that's the sort of feedback we get about some of those subjects and about how they work. When it comes down to it, we're probably the only university that is so focused on trying to help you get through your master's with the least amount of pain. That's how I would see. We're offering a certain amount of pain relief and help along the way. That's what it boils down to. Along as part of that journey, you get the 50-50 university and industry subjects. You get entry by work experience. It's all online, an unprecedented range of credit opportunities, and free short courses and industry certs. I think what we offer in the market is quite unusual, even on a global basis, in the range of things that we are able to do. So feel free to ask us some more questions. Just pop them in the chat. It's the easiest. We've got a Q&A, but honestly, just pop them in the chat at the moment if there's anything you would like to ask. If you want us to get somebody to give you a buzz, just let us know that too. We'll get somebody to call you, Jordan, and I'll talk to Kat about speaking to you, Wayne, as well. Is there anything else anybody wants to know? Okay.
Thank you for attending, everyone. It's really nice to see some people here and asking questions and giving feedback.
Yeah, we're always excited that people want to do our courses. That is exciting. And it's even more exciting when people graduate and they finish them. But absolutely, would be good to understand the fee help structure as 4K a subject up front can be steep. So essentially, I can't remember the percentage, but it goes into your tax at the end of your tax year. There's a sliding scale. The more money you earn, you get a percentage of your income comes out and is added on as an extra tax as part of your repayment program. And I think there's an interest component as well, which they have reduced over the last couple of years. It was getting a bit high and they've now clawed it back because there was a big uproar about it. And I know that a lot of people were upset about the interest, but it's not a completely free loan, but essentially depends where you're working. If you're not working in a highly paid job, then, or even somewhat above average, I think it is, then you're probably safe from paying it for quite some time. But if you're getting into this because you want to be getting ahead in your career, you're probably already in a well-paid job, and it will, you'll get lumps in each tax return. I'd have a quick look at what the tax rules are. And if you have an accountant, speak to your accountant about it, because everybody's situation is going to be different. We can't advise you about that, but that's generally how it works.
Yeah, I think the cutoff is something like 50K a year or something, so reasonably low, where you will start paying back the repayment, and it goes up a little bit, 1% of the 1%, 2%, whatever, but it really does depend on your current wage. But I think you can set it so that it takes it out pre-tax, which easier, and you don't have to see it into your account and then pay it back at tax time yourself. It just is automatically taken out.
Yeah, there's quite a few options there. The other thing about it is, you only have to do a minimum of one subject a session, and you can take leave of absence along the way. And that's how some people structure it so that they can save the right amount of money at the right time that they need to. And that's also where the credits come in, because let's face it, if you can save up to 50% of your course through prior learning and other things, then that's a $24,000 saving off the cost of your degree, potentially. Most people only get 1 to 2 to 3 credits because they do want to learn the subject matter as well. So there's a real balance there for everybody. There you go. You've had to take the last 12 months off. Hopefully, that will help as well. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming along. I really want to thank Chantel for coming along tonight as well. This is Chantel's last ever information session for us. She's leaving us after many years with us, which is a real shame. But thanks, Chantel. It's been great to have you on board, as always.
Thanks for having me along.
And thanks for listening to us and putting up with us, everybody. The recording for this will be available on our website within about 24, 48 hours as well, if there's anything we said that you really want to go back to. So, as I said, thanks again. It's been a pleasure, and hope you have a great night ahead of you.